What's up, YouTube? DJ Kryptonite here, talking boxing, combat sports, and all that jazz. Just dropping another video. First, I want to say like, subscribe, comment regarding any of the content, any of the content that I share. But let's get right to it. Um, Lately, they've been talking about this Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford fiasco, at least with the negotiations and the lead up to the fight. There hasn't been announced just yet, but the latest on this has been that um, Terrence Crawford was cited or in Texas, and the assumption is that there's some sort of negotiation taking place. That could be possible. Could be the case. I'm happy he is in Dallas. We'll see. We'll see if it develops into some sort of contractual agreement or where we can solidify the fight at that point. But again, it, that I don't know if his seemingly being in Dallas is going to change the negotiation. I think some of the new media and are talking. They're making assumptions. Everyone jumps to assumptions, and I don't know if they're jumping to assumptions to get views or likes or whatever. But yeah, he's in Texas. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. Like I said, I'm just hopeful that the fight will get signed. But he's in Texas to negotiate with the fight. He has to show up in person. That's not necessary. So all of this is just hogwash at this point. But as long as both sides continue to talk and converse about it, I think we're good. Hopefully, like I said, the fight in the next coming weeks or whatever will be finalized at some point. That's what I'm hopeful of doing. But I really don't have a whole lot of confidence in the Terrence Crawford side. It seems like they've just been making bad business decisions. Um, it's just and some of the reported um, demands that he has. Again, these are all reports, just rumors. They're not really based on any kind of truth or anything. So it's a weird thing, and they keep blaming that the fight is not going to be made because of money. Um, the problem with that is, like I said, I'm a purist. So back in the 80s, 90s, boxing wasn't to the point where people become superstars because we determine or we declare them to be superstars. They were superstars because of their record, their resume. Like Floyd Mayweather didn't become a superstar because he declared himself that and he started demanding money. No, he had a resume. Mike Tyson didn't declare himself a superstar. He was knocking out people. He created a buzz and created demand that people wanted to see him fight. So it didn't matter who was fighting at some point because they just wanted to see him fight. So to sit here and say the money isn't there because it's not a big fight, that's not anybody's fault. It's because they don't have a following. And I'm speaking specifically to Terrence Crawford. He was actually mismanaged with Top Rank. That gave him a disservice. They did not push him or market him to be a superstar. They kept him kind of on the back burner. And whose fault is that? That's nobody's fault. He has to just fight names. So for him to come into this negotiation and saying, well, I'm pound for pound, best fighter, coming off of ESPN under contract, ESPN kind of regulates the pound for pound list. So why wouldn't it be in their best interest to say that one of their folks is the pound for pound guy, so to speak, quote unquote, whatever that means anyway. But the problem I have with this is it's nobody's fault that Terrence Crawford does not have a following. His following would have been generated if he was appropriately managed and he was fighting people. You have to fight legitimate foes to be a pay-per-view star. People have to want to see you. And if you have the benefit of just being an exciting boxer, a knockout artist, or what have you, then you may not need to have those fights, those signature fights to be a pay-per-view sensation. Like Gervonta Davis, he's fought some folks, but none of these folks are going to be Hall of Famers that he's beaten. He's just been knocking folks out. He's knocking a lot of people out. People want to see it. He's developed the following. So it's not who he fights, it's how he fights. But the the growth of a pay-per-view star was easy in that regard. Floyd Mayweather had a longer stretch to become a pay-per-view sensation. Mike Tyson had a shorter window. He knocked out everybody, so everybody wanted to see his fights. In fact, people would order pay-per-view or watch the fights, and they weren't even mad that the fight went 30 seconds, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 2 rounds. Nobody was upset because they knew it was going to be non-stop action for those seconds. People were willing to pay that. So in this particular case, you're saying the money isn't there. The money isn't there because you're not growing fighters like you did in the 80s. You're not growing fighters like you did in the 90s. In fact, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Hagler, they weren't arguing about money. They just wanted to fight. And the more they fought legitimate opposition is at the time that they became legendary. At this point, none of these folks are legendary. They're not fighting anybody. They don't want to fight anybody. The closest thing to somebody fighting any and all with respect to this fight would be Errol Spence. He's fought pretty much all of the top welterweights that he was able to fight, and he's beaten them. And if he didn't fight them because they fell off. So he's pretty much fought everybody that he needed to fight. He's accumulated all the belts that he could find, or he was legitimately able to secure. He did it. And now all of a sudden you're talking, oh my God, the money isn't there, the money isn't there. Terrence Crawford, that's nobody's fault but yours. You were mismanaged, you weren't properly sold as a pay-per-view star, or you didn't fight legitimate people to give you that following, like an animal or some sort of box office star. You may be the greatest boxer of all time, but if nobody's willing to pay to see you, then what are you complaining about? You have to continue to grow your brand. And if you're not willing to do that, you're going to get shortchanged. So if anybody stalls this negotiation, it's going to be Terrence Crawford, because he feels like he's shortchanged, but it's nobody's fault but his own. And the reason why I say that is because he was mismanaged. He should have jumped left Top Rank years ago and not re-upped with him, because he re-upped with him maybe 3 years ago before the lawsuit. So he re-upped, and then he filed the lawsuit when he realized that Bob Arum was not pushing him as some sort of box office star. So the thing about it is, ultimately, Terrence Crawford, he really needs this fight. If you want to become a pay-per-view guy, then you need the fight. You need to put people on your resume like Earl Spence, because that just grows your brand. Now people will want to see you. Right now, you're just something on paper saying, oh, he's pound for pound. But do you really want to see this guy fight? Unless you're a boxing purist, yeah, you may want to see him fight, but not so much. Errol Spence has a bigger draw. Like I said, he has a story behind him. He's beaten Kell Brook. He's beaten Sean Porter. He's beaten a lot of big names. Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia. He's beaten a lot of the top names. So, and he doesn't have to grow up. He's grown. They actually grew this guy's brand, and that's what happened. So, with respect to Terrence Crawford, you have to continue to grow your brand if you want to start demanding big figures. Until then, you need to be quiet and take the fight. This is just another way to build your brand by putting a notch on your belt, by beating Errol Spence. So all of this demand for this, demand for that, that's you believing your own hype. Anyway, I hope the fight gets secured, because at this point, it's just been a lot of rumors and talk, and all of this new media is talking about, oh my God, yeah, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the third, and nobody knows anything. It's ridiculous. They just need to keep quiet. Keep quiet, let the negotiations happen. Of course, people want to talk about it. It's a great conversation. But to put these assumptions here and there in, it's not even worth it. We have to assume that they have not reached an agreement, and we'll go from there. So anyway, like, subscribe, comment. I hope everybody enjoys the videos. And like I said, I'm looking forward to this fight happening. Hopefully it's secured, at some point. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Anyway, DJ Kryptonite out. Have a great weekend. Deuces.